Imagine living in a world where a simple accident could put your entire life at risk. Today, a broken leg means pain, medical treatment, and a period of recovery. But for humans who lived thousands of years ago, an injury like that represented something far more serious. Relying on time, physical endurance, and the support of others just to stay alive. Prehistory reveals stories that go far beyond hunting and stone tools. It also shows how our ancestors faced extreme challenges in an environment where almost everything depended on their ability to move. Among hunter-gatherer groups, walking was not just part of daily life, it was essential for survival. Movement allowed them to search for food, find shelter, and stay connected with their community. Losing that ability was not simply a physical limitation, it could become a direct threat to their existence. This is the channel Facts Between Worlds, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Subscribe so you don't miss future videos like this, and support our work by leaving a like. It really helps the channel grow. For a long time, many researchers believed that a serious injury would likely leave an individual abandoned and unable to survive. However, the remains left behind by ancient populations began to tell a very different story. At several archaeological sites, scientists discovered skeletons with old fractures that had completely healed, revealing that some people managed to survive even after suffering injuries that once seemed impossible to overcome. These discoveries reveal something truly remarkable. Those individuals did not die immediately after their accidents. They remained alive for weeks or even months, giving their bodies enough time to begin and complete the natural process of healing. The bones uncovered by archaeologists cannot tell us exactly who cared for those individuals or what their recovery looked like, but they provide one important piece of evidence. At some point in human history, people were able to survive injuries that could easily have meant the end of their lives. The real question is no longer just how the fracture happened. The deeper mystery is understanding how that person managed to survive long enough for their own body to repair the damage. To understand this, we need to look at the remarkable ability of the human body itself. When a bone breaks, a complex series of reactions begins almost immediately. The body creates a natural protective response around the damaged area, forming an initial structure that prepares the foundation for recovery. As time passes, new cells begin rebuilding the injured region, replacing damaged tissue with new bone. Slowly, the bone regains its strength and eventually becomes capable of supporting weight again. This process did not begin with modern medicine. Long before hospitals, surgeries, or specialized treatments existed, our ancestors already carried this same incredible ability to heal. Long before modern medicine existed, the human body already possessed an extraordinary ability to recover. A person who lived thousands of years ago did not need to understand how bones worked for their body to carry out this natural process of repair. But surviving a fracture in the ancient world depended on much more than the body's ability to heal itself. The greatest challenge was facing everything that came after the accident. A person with a damaged leg did not lose only their ability to walk. They temporarily lost the ability to take part in the activities that kept the entire group alive. Finding food, moving with others, and reaching safe places became extremely difficult tasks. In societies where survival depended on constant movement across the landscape, an injury could turn an ordinary journey into a life-threatening challenge. The bone healing itself was only one part of the struggle. The other was finding a way to stay alive long enough for that recovery to happen. This is exactly why some archaeological discoveries are so important. A bone that healed after a serious fracture represents much more than an ancient injury. It is evidence that an individual managed to survive one of the most difficult periods of their life and continue living. For researchers, a fully healed fracture reveals a story that goes beyond the body's natural ability to repair itself. It suggests that, at some point, that person had enough time, protection, and support to wait for the healing process to take place. But how was that possible in a world without hospitals, modern medicine, or advanced treatments? The answer may lie in the way human groups organized themselves thousands of years ago. One of the most famous discoveries connected to this behavior was found inside Shanidar Cave, located in what is now Iraq. There, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a Neanderthal who lived approximately 50,000 years ago and showed several signs of serious injuries and physical limitations that would have made a completely independent life extremely difficult. For thousands of years, many people believed that anyone who could no longer hunt, walk, or fully use their senses would have almost no chance of survival in a harsh natural environment. However, discoveries made by archaeologists have challenged that assumption. The case found at Shenada is one of the most remarkable examples. The individual discovered there carried several signs of severe physical difficulties, suggesting that daily life was probably much more challenging for him compared to other members of his group. Yet despite these limitations, he continued to live for many years after suffering those injuries. This raises one of the most fascinating questions about the past. How did someone with such serious challenges survive in a world without hospitals, medicine, or modern treatments? And Shenada was not an isolated case. Other ancient skeletons discovered across different parts of Europe also show evidence of healed fractures and severe joint conditions that likely caused pain and limited movement. These discoveries cannot tell us exactly how ancient communities supported their injured members, but they reveal something incredibly important. Our ancestors were not only capable of enduring severe injuries, some of them managed to survive because they were not left to face those challenges alone. When we examine these ancient remains, one thing becomes clear. Survival in the prehistoric world was never only about individual strength. In many situations, the support of the group could determine whether someone recovered or whether an accident became fatal. A person who suffered a serious injury could not simply return to their normal routine. During the long recovery period, the community had to adapt. Other members needed to take on additional responsibilities, helping with tasks that the injured person could no longer perform. Finding food, protecting the camp, and keeping the group together required cooperation and patience. Survival sometimes depended on the willingness of others to provide support during a difficult time, but even with help from the community, survival was never guaranteed. Some injuries remained extremely dangerous. Open wounds could lead to severe infections, and major fractures could cause life-threatening complications before the body even had a chance to begin healing. Prehistoric life was not only a story of strength it was also a constant struggle against challenges that may seem simple today, but in the ancient world could completely change the fate of a person. Most survival stories from the ancient world were never recorded. Many people who suffered severe injuries likely did not survive the first days after an accident, and their experiences disappeared without leaving evidence that could be discovered thousands of years later. The archaeological record only shows one part of this reality. The individuals who, for some reason, managed to endure long enough for their bodies to leave behind signs of recovery. But these discoveries reveal something much deeper than a simple broken bone. Healing from a serious injury was not determined only by the body's ability to repair itself. It also depended on how the people around that individual responded during a moment of vulnerability. In small communities where every person played an important role, caring for someone who could no longer contribute meant changing the way the entire group survived. Food had to be shared. Energy had to be spent on protection, and time had to be dedicated to someone who was temporarily unable to help in the same way as before. Keeping an injured person alive for weeks was never an easy choice. It required valuable resources that were also essential for the survival of everyone else. A tiny mark, preserved on an ancient bone, can reveal far more than we might expect. To researchers, a healed fracture is not just evidence of a physical injury. It is a window into how early humans learned to survive together. For a long time, human evolution was mostly connected to the development of tools, hunting strategies, and the ability to adapt to different environments. But these discoveries reveal another powerful factor that shaped our history. Cooperation, the ability to care for someone who had become vulnerable, could improve the chances of survival for the entire community. Protecting an injured member meant preserving experience, knowledge, and an important part of the group itself. When an archaeologist discovers a bone that healed thousands of years ago, they are not simply looking at an ancient injury. They are uncovering evidence of a life that continued despite overwhelming challenges. Hidden within the structure of that bone is a silent message. That person survived long enough for their body to complete a natural healing process, the same biological process that still takes place inside human beings today. In the end, a simple fracture preserved inside an ancient bone reveals a story that goes far beyond the body's ability to heal. It shows that long before hospitals, cities, or organized medicine existed, some human groups already understood something essential for survival: the importance of caring for one another. The exact ways these communities supported their injured members may never be fully known. We do not know how every group responded or what kind of assistance each individual received, but the evidence left behind tells us one thing clearly: some people faced extraordinary hardships and still managed to survive. Perhaps this is one of the greatest lessons hidden within the remains of prehistory. The human journey was not shaped only by the strongest individuals or by those who could face danger alone. It was also shaped by cooperation, compassion, and the decision to protect those who became vulnerable along the way. In a world where every day brought new challenges, survival was not always about being the fastest or the strongest. Sometimes, survival depended simply on having others by your side.